This is my ultimate list with my favorite tips and ideas for creative park building in Jurassic World Evolution 2. A lot of these tips are from the many previous tips and tricks videos that I've made, but here I'm just combining them into one video so they're all in one place for you to help you with your future parks, because with the new updates and DLC coming, we want to be ready to build the best parks ever. I think the single most important tip is to add elevation differences in your park. And I don't just mean a couple of hills in a dinosaur habitat. I mean big plateaus incorporated in your park layout. It gives your park such a wow factor, and with just a little bit of practice, it's super easy to do. Now, if you play the game unmodded like I do, using elevation in your parks means you lose space to the hills. And that's okay, because my second most important tip is to waste space. Not every inch of the map needs to be an enclosure or have a building. Create large open guest plazas and beautiful gardens, or big landmarks like rivers, canyons, and even a mountain range. Speaking of plazas though, they are really important to make a park look good and realistic, because you need a place to put all those people. I have a video with 10 plaza ideas that you can use, which I will link at the end of this video. While I go in depth in that other video, which I do recommend to check out if you struggle with your guest areas, the key thing for a good plaza are to mix the path colors a little bit, get creative with the shape, leave little cutouts for trees, and create separate seating sections. Because, you know, people want to eat their overpriced burgers in peace. These 3 tips are like the big 3. The rest of this list is in no particular order, just my other favorite building tips, tricks, and ideas. When you're building an aviary or lagoon, do something interesting with the shape. For example, I like making these U-shaped aviaries with the galleries in the negative space. You can do the same with the lagoons. Lagoons are also great for creating secluded islands, accessible only via hyperloop, monorail, a separate entry point, or a fun way, the zip lines. I also love digging down around a lagoon to expose the concrete wall and use that as a backdrop to either an exhibit or a guest area. Speaking of digging, you can also partly bury the Jurassic Park or Malta aviary into the ground so guests can look into it from the path instead of needing to go into a viewing gallery. Now technically, there is no viewing from the path. I'm aware of that. It's not actually a mechanic in the game, but I recommend that you pretend that there is. It's just more realistic, and it gives you the opportunity to create amazing experiences for your guests in your parks. Most importantly though, you just create amazing experiences for yourself when you walk around your own park when it's done. When I'm making an enclosure, I prefer to use the concrete walls and then create windows in the enclosure perimeter with wire fences to direct where your guests can look into a habitat. As you build an enclosure, try to make the shape and fencing of the enclosure more interesting than just a single line of fence in either a square or rectangle or some sort of weird random potato shape. Put a little bit of thought and planning into it. Like what I did with this T-Rex habitat, which has a main area, an educational arena, and a nighttime enclosure with a tour going all the way around. I have a speed build for this enclosure and many others on the channel. I've been going through these tips at a rapid pace. Remember that this video is just a compilation of my favorite park building tips. If you want more tips or more in-depth videos, check out the other content on the channel. There are a lot more tip videos, park builds, and park tours to give you ideas and inspiration. And if you like what you see, consider subscribing to the channel and joining the army of over 150,000 awesome park builders. Let's do a mid-video speed round. Line as much of the path as possible with either planters, walls, rocks, trees, or bushes. Make dinosaur nests for your bigger species and pretend that life found a way. The small Mediterranean rocks are great egg substitutes. Create bridges in your parks. Honestly, this is one of my ultimate favorite things to do. Use the Jurassic Park and Jurassic World gate as decorations in your guest sections. Always hide the backs of your buildings. Either have no path behind the buildings or align them with concrete walls, the multi-wall pieces, or foliage. Detach a viewing gallery from the fence and instead put it on a hill just outside of the enclosure. Okay, end of the speed round. If you are enjoying these tips, give the video a like. The algorithm feeds on thumbs, so donate one right here. Next tip, pay attention to detail. As we play the game, we as the park builder are high up in the sky like the gods that we are. Take the camera down to ground level and pay attention to how a person would experience the park. Add lots of decorations, but try to avoid making it look messy. Working with the terrain paints, you should create a blend of the different types. Use a bigger brush size and a lighter touch to create more faded edges. Make sure you paint the terrain in a way that looks natural, instead of just filling in certain areas with a different color terrain type. Even though the terrain tools in each biome are limited to that biome, you can still simulate different environments with the tools we have. I have a full video on how to create different biomes within each of the biomes. Obviously, I can't go into all of the details in this video. I will link that biome video at the end of this one. With the upcoming update 6 that introduces all foliage types on all maps for PC and new console gamers, you can make even more convincing biomes. So that's why I do recommend you check out that video, because this is the time where you're gonna be able to make the most of it. Different biomes within your parks add variety. Variety is more fun for you to build and more fun for you to explore when you're done. If you really want to commit to the different biomes, you can use the glass aviaries as biodomes. I've built an entire park that way and it was awesome. There is a way to get dinosaurs into the aviaries without using mods. This works on PC and consoles alike. You need an aviary with hatchery and a regular hatchery. Go into the aviary hatchery and set the filter to new. This will clear out all species. Go to the regular hatchery and select the species of dinosaur you want. Just click on the tile. When you return to the aviary hatchery, the species of dinosaur you selected will be available in the aviary hatchery, so you can modify the genome there and then incubate and release it directly into the aviary. Update 6 will introduce many awesome things into our games, but one of them being the huge square maps. And those will be perfect for this tip. But you can also do it for the other big open maps like Nublar 2015, Arizona, and Pennsylvania. The tip here is to create your own island shape. There are two ways to go about this. You can create an entire island shape before you start your park build, and then challenge yourself to not change the coastline as you build, instead letting the shape of the island dictate how you build and letting it inspire you. Doing this, you've basically created your own randomized island feature. The other way is to get a rough shape down for the island, but then change it to suit the shape of your park as you build, so you can create the perfect island. It's a super fun way to build, and I think for most people it will be the best use of the big square maps, because filling the entire square with a detailed park will probably explode your console or PC. I used to be known as Crazy Path Lady for the crazy stuff I did with Path, but now I think my most recognizable, characteristically Evo building thing is my use of the monorail tracks, which I use either as decoration or as a roof for guest sections or nighttime enclosures.
I think that's an idea that I believe Evolution Squared had way back on the first game.
Oh, really?
To use the monorails as sort of columns and pylons,
yeah,
and to make it sort of into like a mall area almost.
I love the height that it creates and the play of light and shadow. Sticking with more monorail advice, personally, I think the monorail tracks stand out too much in a park if you're not careful. A monorail track snaking through your park can become overpowering and messy. Be mindful of how you have a track navigate through your park. Two of the easiest ways to prevent a monorail from overcrowding your park or dominating the look of your park is to just have the track follow the perimeter, the border of the map, or just remember that you don't need to create a circle. You can just have a single line of monorail and have the train go back and forth. You only have one train that way, but it does not impact your transportation rating. However, some of my favorite examples of how I incorporated the monorail are how it follows this raised plateau in my Better Jurassic World, and how I've incorporated the functional monorail track with the decorative roof right here in my favorite dinosaurs park. Something that I hope will inspire you for your own builds. When building a park, I think most of us stick a hatchery in a corner somewhere and maybe delete it after a park is fully populated. It's definitely something I do a lot of the time, but it's also fun to acknowledge the need of the hatchery in a park and create a dedicated section for it. This way you can put the many facility buildings and decorations that we have to good use. You can even add a viewing gallery to it so VIP guests can watch the newest dinosaurs come into the park. Something I say a lot is use your imagination, and there's more to that than just pretending that guests can see dinosaurs from the path, for example. Just to give you a couple of examples here, use the viewing gallery as a lighthouse, use the Morus Intrepidus as a hatchling T-Rex, create sexual dimorphism with skins, variants, and even different species, create a barn or shelter for your dinosaurs by putting viewing galleries together, and one of my favorites, using the drone from the Lagoon and aviary hatchery as an attraction. Pretend that your guests can go into the building and control the drones and explore the lagoons and aviaries that way. The last tip, and perhaps the most important one, subscribe to Evolution Square for more tips, tricks, and a ton of building inspiration, as well as the latest news about the DLCs and free updates. Thank you so much for watching, liking, subscribing, and until next time, enjoy the game.